Welcome to the Virtual CPA Success Show, where we're 100% focused on helping service-based businesses achieve success. Are you a business owner interested in learning how to scale your business? Has your business reached over $1 million in annual revenue? Then this podcast is for you.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Virtual CPA Success Show. My name is Jamie Na, and I'm the Director of Accounting here at Summit CPA. I'm going to be the host of this podcast. Today, we're going to talk with Jody Grunden and Adam Hale about the beginning of Summit CPA. We'll start with some quick introductions. Jody, you first.
I'm obviously Jody Grunden. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Summit CPA Group.
All right. Adam, how about you?
Well, I'm Adam Hale. I'm the COO of Summit CPA Group. Basically, put another way, Jody comes up with the crazy ass ideas, and I figure out a way to get them integrated into our system.
And Jody has lots of crazy ideas, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So Jody, let's start with your first crazy idea. How did you get into accounting?
Accounting, yeah, that's kind of funny. Originally, I went to school to be basically an economics major. I wanted to do something in finance. And then I realized at some point that I'd have to actually move to a big city. And at that time, it was like, well, it's probably not what I want to do after all. So I thought, what else can I do to really kind of help me, or something that I could benefit from if accounting didn't actually work out, or actually, whatever major worked out. And it would be like a biology major or something like that, where what are you going to do afterwards if you didn't go to a med school? So I picked accounting. I thought that would be kind of something interesting, something I was good at. I was very good at math, very good at inquisitive things, kind of, I love crossword puzzles, love word searches, all that kind of good stuff. And it was something I thought would be something I could actually make something of, down the road.
So after you studied accounting, what was your first job out of college?
Oh gosh, first job was mowing lawns. It was one of those things I knew for sure that I would never get that opportunity to work outside again. So I thought, what can we do to work outside? I thought this is perfect. So I took a lawn mowing job right after I passed the CPA exam. I passed the CPA exam right out of college. Took a lawn mowing job for about 4 months, and then I started working at Crowe Chiswick at that point, which was a regional accounting firm. Loved it, had a great time there, and then kind of just went from there. It was one of those things that we actually moved away from the city that we were from. We're from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Crowe was actually, the office was located in South Bend, which is about a 2-hour differentiator there. It just happened my wife was studying to be an attorney, and she was going to a law school about an hour west of that. So it made good sense to work in South Bend. Once she graduated, then it was like one of those things like, do we want to live in South Bend, or do we want to move back so the kids could, get to know their grandparents and stuff like that? And so we thought, well, let's move back. So we had a couple kids. We moved back to Fort Wayne and have been there ever since.
Great. So how about you, Adam? What was your background in accounting, and also your first job?
Wow. That's why he's the CEO. His is more like dreamy. Mine's more practical than that. So back whenever I went to school, there was the newspaper, the thing that they passed out. And what I was always told is like, look for something in there that's like a job you can find. So at first it's like, oh, business. I like dealing with money and all these other kind of things. And I was pretty good with numbers and everything, not really a math whiz by any means, but I was just good with money. And so I thought business. And then whenever we look in the paper, it's like, well, there's no that means I could either run McDonald's, or I could, own this huge company. So I was like, well, that's not practical. So all these accounting jobs, there were specific things. And then they brought somebody in from the FBI whenever I was a freshman in high school, and said that was the number one career, the college choice in order to be in the FBI. I thought that'd be pretty cool too. So that's how I got it in. That's how I got into it. And then whenever you got into college, it's one of those things where you get halfway through and you're kind of I don't know if I like this thing or not. But you see it through. And actually that's what led me to Jody. So right out of college, my very first job was I interviewed with Jody, and he was like, man, you're amazing. I want you to be here. How much money do you want to make? I mean, it was pretty.
Let's hear Jody's side of the story.
It was pretty embarrassing. I mean, he basically begged me to come, and I was like, well, I've got 4 or 5 other offers, but we'll see. Long story short, it worked out. So I ended up working with Jody at a different regional CPA firm, only for about 2 or 3 months. And then that's whenever our Jerry Maguire story kind of starts. Unfortunately, Jody's, the Tom Cruise character and I'm Renee. So no goldfish, although oddly, like later a fish story is kind of pivotal in Jody's life. But for right now, there's no fish. Jody just decides to pick up and leave during busy season. And he's like, hey, you want to come with me? And I was like 22 years old. He's the reason why I took the job in the first place. I was like, yeah, let's do it. So that's kind of how we kickstarted Summit CPA Group.
Yeah, and there's more to that story too, because when he, what happened was that after I hired Adam, the firms, basically gave me an ultimatum. They had either let him go or I had to quit. And it was like one of those things that I wasn't going to quit because I didn't want to work a bazillion hours. I didn't want to fire him. He was doing a great job. He was the only person that actually applied for the job ever. So it was one of those things I couldn't get somebody else. And
he's getting old. His memory's fading.
Yeah. And so when it came time to making that decision, it was pretty easy. Quit the very next day and started my own firm. And then it was probably a week or so later, got a knocking on from Adam. He's like, hey, would you be interested in coming with me? And I'm like, yeah, I could definitely use somebody. I didn't have any money at the time to pay him. I didn't have any clients. Just had a handful of clients that I had prior to going to the prior firm type of thing. And I thought, well, we can make it work. And we kind of started it from there.
Yeah, I think what was a little bit unique though was that I think where the issue came in was that Jody's a leverage guy. So right out of the gate, it's drop it on your desk and leave. Like he's on to other things, trying to sell clients. He's doing the sales side of the business, the operations, really trying to grow the company. And that's what he was trying to do for this small regional firm that they'd purchased probably a subpar CPA firm. And he was trying to change the way we did things and bring in new blood and do all these things. Well, he knew that, he couldn't be the person cranking out the tax returns and meeting with the clients and doing all the behind the scenes stuff. He needed somebody to kind of grind that stuff out, which is why he wanted to hire somebody like me, somebody that could just kind of do all the day-to-day stuff so that he could help grow the business. Well, as you know, especially in CPA land, that's just not how it works. It's like the partner's expected to, bill 2,400, 2,800 hours, something ridiculous. And the majority of the profits and everything drive from the partner. That just wasn't his role. So I think that's probably a little bit of the philosophy knock that he got. Here he hires me and they're thinking, hey, we're just getting off the ground. You should be bootstrapping this thing, bleeding out until you can't take anymore. Then we can hire an Adam. That wasn't his philosophy. And that's not what we did at Summit. Sucked for him for the first couple of years. I got my salary. I transferred over the exact same thing that I was getting paid. And fortunately for me, he made that happen. And he kind of paid the price for that. So whenever I say co-founder, it's a little loose. I was employee number one. So I wasn't really, so starting in 2002, I definitely hope that I made, help shape the practice, but he was definitely the vision behind that. And I didn't become a partner until 2006. So it was about 4 years later. But yeah, it's been a great journey.
So Adam mentioned Jody's philosophy a little bit, and a lot of these philosophies led to the way Summit does things. So Jody, can you talk a little bit about the start of Summit CPA and some of the things you wanted to do when Summit first started?
Yeah, it was kind of funny because I'd worked in public accounting, I'd worked in corporate accounting. Public accounting, I didn't really want to work in because it was a bazillion hours. It was one of those things that I couldn't see my kids. I coached hockey, all the kind of stuff that really was kind of playing against me. And then I went to the corporate world. I was there for 2 or 3 years there, and realized how boring it was. It was kind of the same thing. It was Groundhog Day, same thing over and over and over again. And it was something that was like, well, this isn't really long-term for me either. And it's like, now what do I do? I don't like public and I don't like corporate. And so it was like, well, I kind of, want to be able to control my destiny. I was given offers from bigger accounting firms and saying, hey, we'd love to have you as a tax manager, blah, blah, blah. And it was one of those things I didn't really want to get back into that because I knew that really meant working for somebody 70, 80 hours a week and really just not really having a quality of life type of thing. And so when we made the leap to Summit, it was one of those things I wanted to do things differently. And I wanted to do things that other accounting firms weren't doing. And it was, one of the big things, originally we were like, hey, let's work just 4 days a week. This would be kind of cool. Be the only CPA firm back in 2002 that only works 4 days a week. If we have to work on the 5th day, great. If we don't, not a big deal. Let's not schedule anything. And we did that for a real long time. We kind of still do that to a point today. The other thing is that I wanted to do things a little differently and didn't want to really bill by the hour. And that really didn't hit until probably the second or third year actually in business. We had to initially figure out how to bill. We had no idea. And billing by the hour was really bad. And I remember when I worked at Olive and I worked at the other BKD, the other two accounting firms. It was one of those deals that when we brought on new clients, they called us all the time. And then all of a sudden, about 2-3 months later, they quit calling us. And as a naive person right out of college, I had no idea why. Well, I figured out why real quick when we owned our own CPA firm. It's like, well, because they got a bill. And as soon as they got a bill, it was like, well, I'm not going to call. And I'm going to actually argue about that bill, because what does 0.25 minutes in a meeting mean, especially when we're both in there? All these different things that evolved around non-essential things, nothing that we really wanted to be part of when it comes to client meetings and so forth. So we had to figure out a way to do things differently. And that's when we thought, well, the flat fee billing, that's got to be the way to go. And we wanted to try that. No one else was doing it at the time. And everybody told us that we would completely fail. And obviously we almost did, but that's a story in a little while. But the other thing was that, we wanted to leverage, big time. And I gave Adam a really great book that I love. It's called The E-Myth. And I gave it to Adam and said, hey, got to read this book. This is how we want to actually design our company. We want to basically design it so that we can walk away. Do you remember the book, Adam?
There's several editions of it. E-Myth Revisited was fantastic. I mean, it was all about just process and leveraging people and making sure that you're doing everything the right way. And I mean, it wasn't like super easy right out of the gate. I mean, like I said, I'm a grinder by nature, shoebox accountant. So we definitely put in more than our fair share of hours. So whenever he's talking about 4-day work weeks, he meant people we hired,
Correct.
not us. But at the same time, like when my buddies that were 23, 24 calling me from working at, big four firms, whenever they'd call me and be like, man, everybody here is crazy. It's 7:00 at night. I want to go home. I've been here since 6:00 in the morning. And they're all looking at me like I'm like nuts for wanting to leave at 7:00. I might have just left an hour before that, but I felt great about the day because I was making an impact. One, I was having great contact with our clients, which, doesn't always happen in big firms. We were making an impact in their lives, but I was also getting to put a spin on what my day looked like. So Jody was always very open to trying new processes, new tools, those kind of things. So I really felt like I was empowered and I could kind of, make my day better. So if I was there by 6:00, it was by choice. I was trying to make things better, and took a little while to do that, but we did.
For sure. And, it kind of went from there. We weren't above anything. We answered the phones. We didn't have a receptionist at the time. Even when we did have, 2 or 3 accounting professionals with us, we still answered the phones. We just kind of took turns. And so it was one of those things we had to do what we had to do to make things happen.
Well, we couldn't afford it either because we stuck with that flat fee billing, by the way.
Yeah,
so everybody liked our bill because it was super cheap.
Yeah, for sure. Because we were pretty naive when it came to how long it actually took to get things done. It was one of those things that just kind of bit us in the butt. We learned from it, definitely, but it bit us in the butt for sure. I mean, it was a couple of years before I actually took a paycheck. I mean, I pretty much worked off my credit or lived off my credit cards for a couple of years, and I would never, ever, ever advise that to any client out there. So if you're listening, you did not hear that. Not use my credit cards for 2 years like that. But I had to do what I had to do. It was one of those things that didn't have an income. My wife, kind of funny. She went to law school. At the same time, she left her firm, and so we both started with no money, entrepreneurs. And I would never have it any way different. It's been an awesome experience. Tough start, but definitely awesome experience.
So a lot of our listeners are owners or employees for service-based businesses. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about some of the failures with the fixed price billing, because I'm sure that's something our listeners are very interested in, and I know I am as well. So Adam, any good stories there?
Well, I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, you get a deck built on your backyard. It's like, how long is this going to take? Oh, I can get it done in like 5 hours. Bull. By the time they run to the hardware store 4 times and whatever, if you paid them by the hour, you'd get creamed. Well, that's kind of the reason why people don't like value-based billing or fixed fee if you're a CPA owner. It's because like, hey, some things just take longer and I want to be able to bill the client. For us, it was about trying to create an annuity that we could just count on and be able to ACH out of our clients' accounts right away. So there's some stability that we needed from a cash flow perspective. So it was birthed really from that need as well. But the failure is just not understanding our value. I mean, it was nothing to do with time. So whenever I say, hey, something might take 4 hours and we should have, charged for 10 or whatever, that's not the point. It was like the value of the service that we were delivering was worth far more than what we charged. And it was just out of fear. We're like, will they pay $400? Will they pay $500? And then we started just tacking on services, like it just in our nature. It's like we always wanted to evolve and make things better and better and better. And before long, you're doing a lot of great things for your clients and not charging them for it. So that really took us a little while to understand our value and really how to price things.
Yeah, so I think. Sorry, go ahead, Jody.
Not to interrupt, but yeah, it was one of those things that was also like you said, it was out of necessity. When we were small, a $30,000 accounts receivable was a lot of money. We're waiting by the freaking mailbox looking for the check and then being upset with the customer because they didn't send it. And then 2 weeks later, we were like, we called the customer, hey, when do you think you're going to pay that? And it's like, well, I didn't get one. And it's like, oh, you didn't get the invoice. And so then we'd reissue the invoice and then the whole process would start over. And we didn't have cash. Payrolls were like, oh my gosh, we got a payroll coming up. This is kind of scary. And everybody, I think, in this probably listening has had that position before where, they're in a position where, hey, what do? I don't have the money. I don't have the insight really to see, going down the road either. So I don't know when I'm going to have the money. Do I have to dip into a line of credit? Do I have to pull money out personally? That was all in play, for a long time. And so once we decided, hey, we're going to try this flat fee, and ACHing clients, because we did the flat fee and invoice clients. We tried that too until one of our clients decided they weren't going to pay us. And then we got stuck with a month's worth of expenses with no revenue there. And then the other time we would do it, we as, the basically managing that client's cash flow, we were like, well, you can just forget about our bill this week. You don't have the money. So let's push our bill next week. Cause it's really easy to do that. You're always thinking of the best interest of the client. And all of a sudden our bills were starting to get paid back. And we were 3 or 4 months back on everything, and the accounts receivable build up. And it was like one of those things that, Adam and I just talked about and say, we can't do this anymore. I go, let's ACH the client every single month initially. And we started doing that. And it was like, well, how do we do about the clients that we currently have? I go, well, for the most part, we'll tell them this is how we're going to do it. And occasionally had the people that still sent we still send an invoice out. We have that every once in a while here too. We're a $5 million firm. We have maybe $30,000 of AR. So to say we're 100% doing it, we don't, but I would say 99% of the time we're actually ACHing right away. And then the ACH was like, well, this is pretty easy. Everybody's doing it. No big deal. We just told them this is how we do it for all new clients. I was like, yeah, we ACH your account every month and the first of the month. And that's how we did it. And then it's like, well, why are we doing it monthly? Why not? Let's just do this weekly. And so we started doing that. Well, will people do it? And we're like, well, we'll see. And so we started ACHing clients weekly. And it was a lot easier. They loved it because the bill wasn't as big. Our fees aren't cheap anymore. And it was just kind of a nice thing. They can hit the account every single week. And it was just more of a, more driven by, our need to have cash flow than it really was anything else. And it became such a cool thing that now, every Monday is kind of cool because we deposit like, I don't know, $100,000 in the bank every Monday, which is kind of a neat thing. Whereas before, that would have been non-existent. We'd have been like still checking the mail.
I remember always going to Jody and saying, I have this number in my head. I always remember being like, dude, if we could just get to $30,000 a month, like we're borderline ready to retire. $30,000 a month, we're good. So not only did our pricing and services evolve, but so did our clients. I mean, they just expected more out of us. They, like I said, our systems became a little more sophisticated, but so did our clients. The average client size in terms of their place in the marketplace, and revenue and everything also grew as we grew. It's not that we necessarily targeted, we turn people away or only would go after certain people of a certain size, but we positioned our services to where it attracted those people, and we've been able to stay in that wheelhouse for a long time, which has been nice.
And I'll tell you, coming to Summit CPA, there was a lot of unique things I learned about what Summit did, but that was one of the most unique. I was skeptical. I was like, how in the world are we invoicing these clients every week and it doesn't hurt our sales process? And I'll tell you what, I've been doing sales for Summit for a little while, and not once has a client come back to me and said, that's the reason we're going to say no. It's never come up. And then also from my standpoint, a lot of my job is dealing with clients that are upset, or clients just dealing with clients, their issues and things like that. And what's nice is I never have to come to a client and say, oh, by the way, before we have this conversation, you owe me $30,000. Like that. When I was in public accounting, I was having that conversation every month with 2 or 3 of my clients, and it really hurt that client relationship. So that's one of my favorite things about Summit, is I never have to have those conversations. And also it's a great exercise, and you never know what's going to work, because going into any CPA firm, or even talking to our clients about trying to do this, everybody's like, there's no way people are just going to pay us every week and not have a problem with it. And it's worked out really well. So definitely a great thing.
Yeah, and really the only way you can do that is if you flat fee a client, right? I mean, if you're billing hourly, you can't do that unless you just want to hit a retainer every month and then make it up, once a month with an invoice, or a little harder to do, because the invoice is unknown. So it's like one of those things. We didn't want to hit a client up, $250 a week, and then all of a sudden hit them with a $600 or $700 fee at the end of the month, and then find out. And then that's our discussion the next Monday. Hey, why is your fee so big? What do we do? We didn't want that issue at all. And so really to do the flat fee and do the ACH every Monday, it really is, to make it work. I think it is the flat fee enables us to do that.
Yeah, but the way to be able to do that too is it's one of those things that if the client just came to us with just a project or something, those, don't get me wrong, we still, value bill those as well right now. But those are a little harder. But most of our clients, we're doing repetitive, recurring things. Like we set our processes and our services intentionally around delivering something that we could gain efficiencies on. So even though we value bill and we charge double our fee for the first 8 weeks during onboarding, a lot of times if you look at that realization, it's a little bit lower. But the long-term relationship. So some clients are like, oh yeah, you probably get hit hard early on, but I bet you make really good at. No, it's like we price it the right way. We take a little bit of a hit up front. Although the doubling definitely helps because we bring on more resources. But it's about the long-term relationship, the annuity that it creates, that's really drives the value.
For sure. So, we don't want to do a project really if it's just a 1 or 2 month deal. That's we'll do it if it's a right fit, or if there's a promise of future additions to it. But for the most part, we want that long-term relationship. We want our clients to be with us for years, not months or days. Paying that fee every single week for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years is kind of the ideal. And that's the ideal of the subscription-based model. That's why it works real well for us.
And that's why the VCFO service is so strong, right? So almost every website you go onto for CPA firms now say like fractional CFO. And if you read through those descriptions, a lot of times they sound like everything that happens there comes with an expiration date. So it's like, hey, we'll come in and we'll solve for a temporary outage, or we'll come in and solve an issue for you. Like we're there to fix the banking relationship, or we're there to do this, that, or the other. So true, totally buffet of everything VCFO on the fractional side. But what we do is different. We're not there to solve a problem. Of course, if you have them, we're going to work on focus on those first. But we're in it for the long haul, and we feel like our job is to help our clients clarify direction. And in order to do that, again, we're not coming with a silver bullet and saying, hey, you've screwed up all these years. All you got to do is do this. It's like, no, you've got to, with us in place, if we can get all of your systems and processes getting your information fast and accurate, we can help you make those decisions on the fly. And so we do that through forecasting and other things. But again, that's like the key difference that I see whenever I talk to other people or I see other websites where I see fractional CFO versus like a true, what we consider to be VCFO.
Yeah, and I'd say also the other thing is a lot of those websites, they're really talking about accounting, meaning that they're talking about paying bills, reconciling the accounts, doing the bookkeeping type stuff. Our service is way more than that. That's a very small fractional part of our service, if we even do it. Ours is the big part. The strategy. Speaking with the clients weekly, making sure they've got enough cash in the bank to survive the next 8 weeks, the next 12 months. All the different stats that we look for with our clients. We want to make sure that we're on top of it, and that's part of this. That's really the big differentiator from day one. Is the strategy part. We've done that from day one, and that's really why clients. That's why we've grown so fast. That's why clients love it, because they need somebody next beside them to help them out. They need somebody to bounce an idea off of. Hey, I've got this crazy idea. I can't tell my team because I don't want them to get the wrong idea here. What do you think about us doing this? And then we can look at them and say, no. And here's why. Or, hey, that's a great idea. Let's, and it worked really well with other firms. And here's how we can actually make it. And here's how we can present it to your team, to help deliver the message. We could do that kind of stuff where, most of the other, the firms out there, that when you see that, that's not what they do.
Jamie, you and I talked about that. I mean, again, sometimes it's the VCFO side, and they come in as heavy hitters. They solve those problems. They're super expensive, but they have the expiration date, and they're very good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. They're great. And sometimes those are the sole prop folks, and that's all they do. And then other CPA firms can kind of manage that too. And then Jody, to your point, it's the back office solution. So that's the other. So we have those two different ones, but nobody kind of playing that middle ground where they're both at the same time recurring all the time. And that's the space we live in, which there's not too many of us out there that do that.
And oftentimes, actually, even the tax service, we can bundle that in there as well. So we're not a bookkeeping firm. We're not an accounting firm that doesn't offer CPA type stuff. We can do the taxes. We can do a lot of other things, help with profit sharing. The things that you wouldn't really see in a typical firm, or they would charge additional for it. We don't do that at all. Everything is under our value-based flat fee system. So that's kind of the cool thing about it.
And oftentimes, I think what a lot of clients are looking for, and a lot of small businesses are looking for, is just someone with a finance background to talk to. And I think that's really what we're there for. Is like we have the numbers, we have the data, and we help them make their decisions with finances involved. And so I think that's a lot of what the virtual CFO is just getting those conversations started and using the numbers to get those conversations started.
For sure.
Yeah, so obviously this podcast is for creative agencies, and we're going to spend a whole episode talking through how we got into creative agencies and why we do creative agencies. But Jody, if you just want to do a real quick introduction into our background of creative agencies, just to kind of preview what we'll talk about next time.
Yeah, sure. Just a real quick 2-minute thing.
Yeah.
We work with about 100 companies, a little over 100 companies right now, all throughout the United States. We're a distributed company, so our team is also spread throughout the U.S. So the cool thing is that everything is done completely virtual. Creative agencies really like that idea and are used to that idea because a lot of them do the exact same thing themselves. And so our main focus is, I would say, probably 2/3 to 3/4 of our clients are from the creative agency space. And I would say out of the last probably 3 years, 90% of the new clients that we've picked up have been just in that space alone. So it's something we focus on. We know the vernacular, we understand the issues. And it's just one of those things that I had a marketing background when we started, and our first client was a creative agency. And it was just our first virtual CFO client, true virtual CFO client, was a creative agency. And it was one of those things that, hey, it just was a good fit, and we liked it. We did well with it. They recommended other clients, and it just kind of grew up to it became our main focus, and is and will be for a real long time.
I mean, but it was also a total cheat because they're a service-based model, and so it operates very, very similar to how we operate. So we were able to kind of like transform a lot of our metrics and processes. Likewise, we learned a ton from that space. I mean, they are like project management gurus. So we were able to kind of take some of the tools that they were using. So it's been mutually beneficial. They're super open-minded group. So they know what they know, and they trust that we know what we know. And so having a client and a partner like that, that you can bounce ideas back and forth on is pretty cool. And so, yeah, that's why we definitely stayed within the vertical and push hard to work with those folks.
Yeah, it makes for easy training. I know when I came to Summit, I had a public accounting background, and a lot of stuff we were talking about for our clients was the same things I was talking about with my firm: realization, utilization, average bill rate. And so it was a pretty easy transition for me to make, to say, oh, okay, this is basically what I've been doing for the last 5 years with my public accounting firm. So I definitely agree with that sentiment. So that's it for today's episode. Like I said, next time we meet, we will be talking about our creative agency background, kind of the story there, and also why we like working with them a little bit more. So we will dive into that topic. But we plan on doing this podcast every other week. So be listening for our next podcast and stay tuned.
Enjoy this episode? Visit our website at summitcpa.net to get more tips and strategies for achieving virtual CPA success. We're here to be a resource in this ever-changing industry.